slowly accepted their fate. Bridget would be charged with multiple felonies, including the forged document. Kathleen, Roger, and Preston would face charges for making false statements to law enforcement and conspiracy. All would be required to pay restitution and complete community service as part of any plea agreement. The criminal proceedings took 6 months to work through the court system. Bridget ultimately pleaded guilty to forgery, filing a false report, and reckless driving. She received 2 years
In about
probation,
4.5 miles, take exit 3 onto Pennsylvania 940 toward Mount Pocono.
And a 5-year license suspension. She was also ordered to pay full replacement cost of Violet's vehicle plus damages. Kathleen, Roger, and Preston each pleaded guilty to making false statements to law enforcement. They received probation, hefty fines, and mandatory community service. The judge was particularly harsh about adults conspiring to criminalize a child. Our civil suit for wrongful detention and emotional distress settled out of court. My family's homeowner's insurance and personal assets covered the judgment. The money went into a trust for Violet's future education expenses. The impact on family relationships was permanent. I haven't spoken to any of them since that meeting at the prosecutor's office. Kathleen sends cards on holidays that I throw away unopened.
Can you get me a cheese-it,
Roger
please?
tried showing up at our house once, but Grant turned him away. Bridget's social media post came back to haunt her. After the truth emerged, people she'd garnered sympathy from felt manipulated. The public nature of her lies meant the public nature of her disgrace. She deleted all her accounts, but screenshots lived on. Violet took time to recover from the trauma. We got her into therapy immediately, and she worked through the betrayal with professional help. Her therapist said the fact that Grant and I fought so hard for her and ensured accountability helped her process the experience. She learned that sometimes family can hurt you, but that doesn't mean all relationships are unsafe. The replacement car arrived 8 weeks after the settlement. Violet was hesitant at first, worried something would go wrong again. But gradually she rebuilt her confidence. We took extra driving practice together, and she passed her full provisional license test on the first try when she turned 16. Looking back, what strikes me most is how quickly my family destroyed decades of relationships. They chose Bridget's convenience over Violet's innocence without hesitation. The favoritism I'd endured my whole life extended to the next generation.
In 2 miles, take exit 3 onto Pennsylvania 940 toward Mount Pocono.
They assumed I'd back down like I had countless times before. They thought I'd prioritize family peace over justice. Instead, I chose my daughter over their comfort, and they paid the price. The security footage proved invaluable. Without it, the case might have devolved into dueling narratives. Technology provided objective truth that no amount of coordinated lying could overcome. People sometimes ask if I regret pressing charges against my own family. The answer is no. They committed crimes against my child. The badge and uniform they manipulated into handcuffing an innocent 15-year-old didn't make their actions less serious. If anything, attempting to use law enforcement as a weapon made the betrayal worse. Violet is 18 now, finishing her senior year of high school. She's thriving academically, volunteers at an animal shelter, and maintained her love of responsible driving. Sometimes she talks about wanting to become a lawyer after what she experienced. She wants to help other kids who get wrongfully accused. Grant and I built new traditions with just our immediate family.
Use the right lane to take exit 3 onto Pennsylvania 940 toward Mount Pocono.
My birth family's toxicity improved our quality of life dramatically. Violet grew up seeing that family membership doesn't excuse abuse or obligate tolerance. The last I heard through mutual acquaintances, Bridget still
Take the
lives with
exit.
Kathleen and Roger. Her criminal record makes employment difficult. Preston moved to another state, apparently seeking distance from the
At the stop sign, turn left onto Pennsylvania 940 East toward Pocono Summit.
What the court mandated. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd simply presented the evidence immediately and cleared Violet's name without pursuing charges. My family might have faced no consequences beyond embarrassment. They'd probably have justified their actions, convinced themselves they'd been trying to help somehow. The pattern would have continued. Instead, they learned that actions carry weight. Lies told to police aren't harmless words. Conspiracies against children aren't family loyalty. Protecting one person by destroying another isn't love. The prosecutor told me afterward that she'd seen many cases where family members covered for each other, but rarely with such elaborate coordination. Patricia said the case reminded her why she'd become a prosecutor, to protect vulnerable people from those who'd abuse their trust and authority. Sergeant Morrison apologized multiple times over the following months. He'd followed protocol but felt terrible about his role in Violet's detention. The officer now speaks at community events about the importance of thorough investigation and not accepting a way that made me uncomfortable. When I mentioned it to my sister, she slapped me hard.
Keep
"You were
right.
just jealous I found someone." Mom added, "Stop making things up about him." Dad agreed, "You were always creating drama." Later I found my daughter crying in the bathroom alone.
At the stop sign, turn left onto Pennsylvania 314.
And said not to tell anyone or he'd hurt you. I immediately confronted him at the party in front of everyone. He laughed. "She's lying. Kids make things up for attention." My sister pushed me hard. "How dare you accuse him?" Dad grabbed my arm and twisted it. "Get out and take your lying kid with you." I left with my daughter but immediately called the police from my car. When detectives checked his phone and computer, what they discovered: the July heat pressed down on my parents' backyard like a wool blanket. Smoke from the grill drifted across the lawn where folding tables...
At the stop sign, turn right onto Summit Avenue. Then the destination is on your right.
Cutting through the buzz of adult conversation.
Anyway, look.
This should have been just another ordinary family gathering. My sister Veronica had been dating Derek Mitchell for 3 months. She'd met him at some wine-tasting event downtown and hadn't stopped gushing about him since. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, drove a silver BMW, and wore expensive cologne that seemed to announce his presence before he entered a room. Veronica acted like she'd won the lottery. I'd only met Derek once before today, briefly at a restaurant when Veronica wanted to show him off. Something about him had felt...
Railroad crossing ahead.
Though I couldn't articulate exactly what bothered me. Maybe it was how his eyes didn't quite match his smile, or how he touched Veronica's shoulder with the possessiveness that seemed premature for such a new relationship. I'd pushed those thoughts aside, telling myself I was being overprotective. But today felt different. Today my instincts screamed at me in a language I couldn't ignore. Derek arrived late, apologizing about traffic while pressing a kiss to Veronica's cheek that lasted too long for such a casual gathering. He